Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Andrew, and today I'm going to be going over one of the transitions that I use a lot of the time in my videos, which I would call the line transition. It's a pretty easy transition to do, combine just a couple like basic techniques that you use in After Effects. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I've just got a pretty basic sequence open here in my composition. I've got two layers going on. My first layer here is kind of like an establishing shot. Both of them are shot in 120 frames per second, so slow motion, so I've already slowed them down here. But it's just a shot of the water going along there, nice and slow. The second shot I have here is a bird flying across the water. And they're kind of nice because they're in the same kind of lighting. Doesn't have to be like two similar clips. You can use whatever you think will look good across the transition. A lot of the time for like underwater shots, this could be a really cool transition to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is get to decide where I want the transition to occur. So I'm just going to move along here. Maybe somewhere around here. We can always change it after, but this is just for like rough framing. And then we're going to move for where we want our clip to start, just to the transition length there. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our top layer invisible just by clicking on the little eye icon just in the top left hand corner. And then we're just going to move to exactly the frame where our next clip starts. Alright, so now that we have this clip selected, we're going to make sure we have no clip selected just by deselecting on the left side there. Going up to the top and then just select our pen tool, which you can also hit G for a hotkey. And we're just going to zoom into our image, holding spacebar to drag until we're nice and in picture of what we are tracing out. And then we're just going to go along and trace the object. What I like to do after I make my first line is just go into the shape layer, go to the contents, shape, click on fill, and then hit delete. That way it makes drawing the line a lot easier, because if you have the fill, it can sometimes make it a lot, you can't really see what you're tracing if you have the fill selected. So then if we want to continue on where we left off, we're just going to click on the path, click on the last mark we drew, and then just keep going. And you can use the rounding tool if you need, or you can go back and kind of like move it around, round things if you need, no problem. And then I'm just going to kind of, I'll speed this part up so you don't have to watch the tedious process of me just tracing this bird. Alright, so now we've got our bird outline there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the shape, go into the stroke component there, and then we're going to change a few things here. So the first thing you want to change is your width. You can kind of go back and forth until where you like the width of whatever you're tracing. I like around the 4 marks. I think that's where I'm going to stay. For the line cap, I'm going to change it to a round cap, and then the line joint as well, I'm going to change it to round. It's up to you for whatever you like. If you're tracing something that kind of like looks like a path or a map, you can actually add dashes as well, which is a really cool effect, but that's maybe something for another video. So now that we have that, we can collapse that there, go back up to our shape layer. We're going to click on the add icon here, and then we're going to add trim paths. So now we're going to go back to the start of our composition. We can make our top layer visible again, or I guess it's now the somehow moved there, so we can change that back to 960. And then we're going to go to the trim paths that we just added to our shape. Click on the end keyframe, and then we're going to change that to 0 right at the beginning. And I would say just a couple keyframes before our transition occurs. Yeah, so I would say just a little bit before where our transition occurs, we're going to add another keyframe there, and we're just going to make it 100. So now if we go back and watch this, we can see our shape being outlined once it renders. Perfect. Now, it may look a little bit weird now, but I promise in the final product, it'll be something a lot cooler. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our middle layer, the layer that we are transitioning from, and then we're going to go into the effects, and we're going to look for something called gradient wipe. It's also called LumaFade if you're using Adobe Premiere or other programs. It's also called LumaFade. There's lots of different ways of doing this effect. This is the quickest and easiest way of doing it. So for the tutorial purposes, I'm going to just add this to the video. So right where our transition occurs, we're going to change the completeness to 0 and add a keyframe to we're going to make sure that for a gradient layer we have the bottom layer selected. So in my case, it's the 96 MP4. And then maybe just move a few keyframes along and change that completeness to 100. Cool. So we can scrub back and see it go through there. The last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of our line. And to do that, I just like to change the opacity. So to quickly bring it up from your layer, just press T, and the opacity will come up. Add a keyframe of where the transition occurs. And you want the opacity to end before the gradient wipe ends. So we're gonna go to maybe like halfway across, maybe even sooner than that, honestly. About, yeah, there. And then we're gonna just change the opacity to 0. You honestly, you can even delete the line if you'd like, just because it's so short of a transition. But so the final effect will look something like this. And there you have it. It's a quick and easy transition to do. It looks a lot better if you add a lot of those lines outlining things rather than just one. So for example, if you're doing like city skylines or a big monument, this can be a really cool effect to do if you have more time to add more details, have more lines to animate before the transition. This is the basic idea of how to do it, and then from this you can kind of expand and get like some really cool transitions as I showed you in the examples. If you like this video, I'm going to make a lot more tutorials, mostly in Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects, so hit subscribe if you want to keep up to date on that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something from this video. I'm very new to the tutorial industry, so if you have any like tips or feedback or things you want to see, let me know in the description down below. Hopefully, we can build a really cool community from this. I think that's our main objective. We're trying to offer some helpful insight into the editing world. But yeah, looking forward to see you guys in the next video. Ciao.